favorite of two out of the four favorite people in the whole world. It's Byron, aka the Pinoy Powerhouse, aka the handsomest man alive. Dang, my hair looks crazy in this thing right now. And we got the 10th. Is it the 10th or the 11th wonder of the world?
Something wonder. That doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, the 10th of the world. Dick himself, Dickalicious. The puncher of walls. That's the gimmick. How are you, man? Miss you. How you been?
I'm here. I'm just busy. I think we're all busy with our lives. We're taking it one day at a time.
It's been like a couple of weeks since we released an episode. I think the last episode was yeah.
It's been about a month plus. I mean, since the mid-season finale of Dark Side of the Ring. Outside of that, it's been pretty busy for everyone, for all of us especially. And you know, this is just kind of like a catch-up of sorts. Seeing how things are kind of opening back up in a way, especially in the wrestling world. You know, AEW started having fans back, and they're doing the touring now. WWE is doing the same thing. Here we are. Hopefully, maybe we can this become some sort of normality.
Yeah, hopefully. And boy, what a week in wrestling though. Last couple weeks have been pretty good. I'll give it to. Okay, I guess we could start. We won't bury the lead too much because obviously Money in the Bank and Raw is fantastic. But like, I won't give credit where credit's due, but I will say, out of all the wrestlers that could be in AEW from WWE, the two most AEW, or the two that fit with AEW the most, were probably Aleister Black and Andrade. So I mean, I'm happy for them. Hopefully they can make the minor leagues a little better. But but no, I honestly think that's that, as a WWE fan, obviously everybody knows that. I think they would get me to watch more, depending who they feud with and how they set it up. Although I'm not a fan of Alistair or Malakai or Jebediah or whatever he wants to call himself, feuding with Dustin right away. Even though he is a bigger one, I was hoping he'd get like a Pac or something like that, but who knows? We'll see. But like I said, they're two of the most interesting people I think that AEW could have grabbed.
Oh, definitely, especially with Malakai, especially with Tommy N, and how he only had a 30-day release. He didn't have the typical 90-day release that the main roster guys had. So you got to give credit where credit's due with Malakai finding a way to get out of there and signing right away with AEW.
Yeah, that's crazy though. That's like that was like, oh, okay, I may see what they're doing every once in a while. And Andrade's $1 million. But, yeah.
You know, Andrade looks great. I don't like him with Vicky Guerrero. To me, he needs to have Zelina Vega, or since now she re-signed with WWE, option 2 for me would be Selena De La Renta. I think having someone like a hot young female pair with him is the perfect combination. Vicky is just so. I don't want to sound sexist or anything like that. It's more like it's more like her gimmick's a little old. It's outdated. Andrade needs someone like a young female with him. That, to me, that's what his gimmick is about. I hope that can be proven wrong. AEW didn't really do a good job because they were going to reveal a surprise a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people thought that surprise was going to be Zelina Vega, but it turns out that was not the case. So we'll see if they're even going to play up with that storyline in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I think it is weird that they chose, you know, someone who's not Hispanic adjacent, but like someone who had affiliation with one of the greatest Latino wrestlers of all time to kind of manage. I guess it makes sense in that regard, but you're right. I would prefer him with someone different. Like Vicky's had a run, I guess, and I kind of want him to identify, find his own route, but whatever. I'm happy for him though. He seems like he's happy, and I think AEW is happy with him and Malakai. So good luck to them. That should be interesting.
I think they'll do just fine. Malakai got one of the best reactions ever, as far as from an AEW perspective. His debut, the way they debuted him, was perfect. It just I felt so bad for the others that debuted last year. Matt Hardy,
right?
Really, SSO, Miro, those guys got robbed of having that reaction, and It's just good to see Malakai and the way they portrayed him and the way they debuted him, how he laid out Cody with the with his finisher. I thought was just perfect.
Was that when is their live crowd? When was their first live crowd? Not like the wrestlers and family and stuff, but their live crowd.
Well, they've had live crowds at Daly's Place for over a year now.
Wait, so that's
now
real live crowd paying ticket customers?
Yeah, for a while they've had it. Now, as far as touring, they did tour out of Jacksonville about 2 weeks ago. So they did hit the show. They did go outside of Jacksonville first. Um, Now, last week, I thought last week's Dynamite was just, I mean, in a lot of these shows, you got to remember, a lot of these shows have the crowd back into it, and just, you could tell how much of a difference having that live reaction is.
100%.
Dynamite, when they came back last Wednesday, I thought it was one of the best Dynamite shows they've done in probably ever. It was just tremendous, and the crowd helped out a lot. I didn't get a chance to see SmackDown, but Money in the Bank, I did watch Money in the Bank, and I thought that was the best WWE pay-per-view they've done really since before the pandemic.
Right.
I mean, absolutely, and that's just how much of a difference the crowd makes.
Right. So I guess we can move forward and let's not bury the lead. Speaking of reactions, what the fuck? I thought, like you mentioned, I'll kind of piggyback on what you just said about Money in the Bank. That was definitely the best pay-per-view they had in forever. I think dude, even before John Cena came, I thought that was a A+ pay-per-view. Like, it was booked perfectly. I didn't think any of the wrestlers looked weak, even the ones who lost. I think that was probably one of the most well-booked pay-per-views in not just like in the past year, I'd say ever. That shit was fantastic. I don't know if it's because I missed the live crowd and the reactions, but from top to bottom, we had some fucking straight heaters, dude. It all, that Charlotte match, the men's Money in the Bank, the women's was kind of like probably the worst match of the night, and that's like, it was still decent, I would say. But yeah, what did you think of that whole the whole card as a whole?
Let me just start off by saying that Peacock fucking sucks. Everyone is saying the same thing, and for those that saw it live, you can understand why they were spazzing out. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was watching the live, it was about like spazzing out for about a good 10-15 minutes or so. And yeah, you could restart the app and go back in, but it's such a huge inconvenience. And that's just one of the, and that's just to tell the many problems that the Peacock app has currently, and they need to fix that. If you want fans to start watching the event live right away, have a reliable app. This leads me to think, like, if you can't even handle a WWE crowd with a live event, just imagine if when they're gonna have the Olympics, and then if NBC's gonna start getting these sports contracts. Did you imagine having the Super Bowl on Peacock?
Dude,
and the streaming issues that they're gonna have?
It'll be a shit show, but yeah.
Yeah.
And it happened during the entrances. At least my was fucking up for the entrances in the mids, Money in the Bank, and it sucked because I'm a big fan of the guitar entrance of Nakamura, and I was getting hype, and it was fucking up, and I was getting extremely frustrated at that moment. But I'm glad it came together right before the actual fucking match started.
It did, but it also started messing up during the Charlotte Rhea match when they're trying to blur out Charlotte flipping off the crowd. And
I think that's probably it.
It didn't quite work.
Yeah.
I think that's what started it. But it didn't work out because Charlotte, you can still see Charlotte flipping off the crowd on the live stream.
Yeah, that's which is amazing. Apparently she flipped them off because she didn't like the whole that they were chanting for Becky, right? Typical Mark response, trying to take over.
You know what? This was bound to happen when you have a live crowd, and that's just some of the signs that you have to watch out for. Is that the crowd can be unpredictable. You're going to get We Want Becky chants, especially if we've seen photos of Becky back at the Performance Center training for a comeback, and it's been reported that she will be making a comeback soon, more than likely in the next several weeks. So yeah, the fans did kind of over guess and they had too much expectations for that match. I get it, they're tired of seeing Charlotte, but that's just what happens with the live crowd. Speaking of live crowds, I don't miss the what chants at all. Those are probably like the two pet peeves I have regarding the live crowd, but everything else, for the most part, I'm glad they're back. I just
Yeah,
wish I wish more importantly, I wish they got rid of the what chance. But you can't win them all.
yeah. What? Yeah, it's crazy. That's never gonna go away. Unfortunately, they had some more of it tonight with John Cena's promo at Raw, but we'll get into that a little later. Um, yeah. What was your
Yeah.
favorite match of the? What'd you think of the? Any
Well,
highlights from the pay
let's
per view?
let's let's talk about from the card from the beginning. So I didn't get a chance to watch the pre-show match. I know the Usos won against
Yo, that
the
was a
Mysterios.
match too. That
I
was
heard that
like,
was a really good.
yeah, 4-star match.
I heard that was a pretty good. I heard that was a pretty good match. Those guys could go out there. Dominic can go. Give him credit. For what he is being trained at and his limited experience. He's delivering. So I have no issues with Dominic.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Usos are obviously severely like underappreciated as wrestlers. They can super go. Um, yeah, it was a great opening card. Opening to the thing. I thought it was actually the actual card. I did because you know how WWE starts at 4 sometimes, but this one started at 5. The actual
They've
cards.
been going. They've been going at 5 lately. So they've been starting the pay-per-views at 5 p.m. now. So they're trying to do 3-hour pay-per-views. This one did run a little bit longer than 3 hours. But yeah, they're starting at 5 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. I'm assuming it's gonna be the same thing for SummerSlam, considering that SummerSlam is gonna be the same night as the Pacquiao fight. So I think they're gonna try to have a hard 3-hour show. So we'll see if they can even do that.
Pacquiao fights in Vegas
Given
too,
the
huh?
match, yes.
What? Wow, Vegas is gonna be
So that's gonna
lit.
be a crazy. That's gonna be a crazy night in Vegas.
You gonna go
Um, probably not. We'll see. I mean, I know that there's still a bunch of tickets left, and
for $55, dude? I
given
looked.
and given now that there's more that given what we know what is likely going to be the main event, it'll probably sell out, and they're gonna use that as a reason to justify it, which is understandable because you want to try to pack as many people as you can safely in in that environment. It's really the first major show outside of Florida. Really the first big pay-per-view, really, if you think about it. I mean, yeah, Money in the Bank does count, but I mean, SummerSlam's traditionally been part of the Big Four, and the fact that they're doing it in a stadium environment, I mean, this is kind of like, I guess, in a way, making up for WrestleMania. But we'll see what they can do. I mean, it'll sell out. I mean, I haven't. It's last I checked, it was about 80% sold out. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's sold out by the end of the week.
Right,
But
right.
my thing about the Usos was I was really surprised that they decided to put the belts on them, given that Jimmy Uso was just arrested last week for another DUI charge. Uh, I mean, I understand the storyline as to why. I get it. You want to build up Roman's faction as being this dominant faction. I get it. I mean, whatever. At this point, the company, if they're gonna do something to punish Jimmy Uso, they're gonna probably do it privately. And if this is all part of the bigger plan for WrestleMania next year, then whatever. I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'm just really more disappointed in Jimmy Uso, getting pulled over again. This guy's had multiple DUIs. You think by now, hey man, I should get a lift. I should get a personal driver. I can afford it. But
Naomi, you have Naomi. Give her a call.
even your spouse, I mean, there's ways around it. But I hope that something changes where, the next time we hear something like this, hopefully it's not as bad as just as just getting arrested. I don't want to hear he goes out and he hurts or worse, kills someone coming home from drinking. He's done this too many times. He's got to really. Hopefully, this is a sober reminder for him to, like, okay, I got to stop doing this.
Right, poor guy, poor guy. But I mean, there was a part.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that part in the promo where Roman was like, especially you, talking to Jimmy, and I think there was a little
that was a
inside
nice
base.
that was a nice dig.
Yeah, I was
That was a
cracking
nice
up.
dig at him. Yeah, yeah,
But all right,
yeah.
so what was the first match on the card again?
It was the women's Money in the Bank, and Yeah, that one's probably the weakest of the main matches, given the people that were in the match. I was really surprised. I mean, I was kind of surprised that Alexa got a decent reaction. I didn't think that her character was going to transfer over well to the live crowd, but the crowd was indeed cheering. Liv Morgan's over. Liv Morgan got probably one of the biggest reactions of the participants involved, and she was a big crowd favorite. I was kind of hoping that she would win. I didn't really have a vested interest as to who was going to win or who my pick was going to be. Nikki Ash came out. I don't like the name, first of all. That's a terrible name. Uh, but I'm glad Nikki Cross is getting, she's at least being used more. So hopefully, she's taking advantage of the situation and can turn this into a positive. And you know what? Her winning the Money in the Bank briefcase did help. And the crowd actually did like the finish. So I still think it was the weakest match of the main show, but give the women credit. They went out there and they tried their best.
Yeah, it was fantastic result. I mean, it was a little slow, and I remember Michelle was watching the whole card with me, which is a win in itself. And she was like, when she watched that match, she's like, "Wow, this is so slow paced," and like it wasn't exciting. It was a lot more like these aren't a lot of these girls aren't the A list of wrestling stars, especially in WWE. And there's a different pace when you're that versus the cream of the crop, the Baileys, the Charlottes, and the Rheas, which we'll get into later. But like, yeah, it was definitely a slow pace, kind of a weird booking match when you don't have all the A+ wrestlers in there.
It is, and also like I think we're also comparing the women's ladder matches with the men's, and that's not really a fair comparison because
Right.
um, I mean look at later on in the match or later on in the card with the men's Money in the Bank, just different type of athleticism involved. Naomi, I thought Naomi did a pretty cool spot with when she was being balanced on the ladder, and she did a what was it, like a hurricanrana off the
Oh
ladder, I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
or
that was pretty
she did
good.
some she did some that was pretty good right there. I'll give him credit for that. That was actually a pretty cool spot.
But like, it's not even so much a spot. It's just like because I remember when Rhea and Charlotte was wrestling, and I was just watching, and I was like all in it, 100%. And then Michelle was like, "Oh man, this match is so much better. The storytelling." It's like, what? How do you even know that? Because that's such like a Mark thing to say. Uh, but it's obvious when you have like A+ performers versus, you know what I mean? Like the crowd was so into like they were eating at the palm of their hands between Rhea and Charlotte. So levels to this.
We'll get to that in a bit. But let's talk about the Raw Tag Team Championships. I didn't think it was gonna be on the card. So AJ and Omos are the Raw Tag Team Champions, and from what I saw, there were baby faces in this match.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy about this match?
Now,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, from what because I haven't watched Raw in a while, but from what I've been reading and from what I've been following, the small clips, they were portrayed as heels in the Thunderdome.
Right.
So I don't know if it was, you know, that's how WWE wants them to be portrayed, but from what I saw in this match, I mean, almost is pretty much a baby face. AJ, he could kind of go either way, but just how they were portrayed overall, it just seemed like it was a babyface match. Viking Raiders, they're a great tag team. I love those guys, but they were just there to be the setup guys. They were just there to put over.
Right.
They're there to put over Almost and make Almost look dominant. He looks, he's still green. He's still got a long ways to go, but given the limited amount of time that he was in there, I thought he did this best and he delivered. He did what he was supposed to do. Looked like a dominant big dude. He got the pin. He hit his finishing on Eric, and
Eric.
they retained. So I that's really all I could say about the match.
Right. And let's just give props to AJ. He's still incredible worker. You could tell he's there to he do all the work and then have Almost do just whatever. And the Viking Raiders are pretty good in ring. I'm surprised how good performers they are in ring.
Oh, they're a great tag team. It's just and you also keep in mind they have also been injury prone over the past couple of months. So that will play into a factor. But going back to AJ, the guy's in his mid 40s. If he slowed down, you can't really tell because he he constantly finds a way to elevate his game and elevate the people around him.
Yeah, work rate is still there. It's insane. What match was after that? I forget. There's only like 4 or 5 matches, huh?
There was a few matches. I think the next one was. Let me see.
Was it the
You're gonna have to help me
men's?
out on this one.
I think it was the men's Money in the Bank
No,
already.
no, it was a WWE title. So it was Lashley versus Kofi. We all knew that coming in, Kofi was gonna get murdered.
Yeah,
It was and especially after that Lashley promo on Raw, where I liked it, and I like the fact that he did get beat by Xavier Woods. It did tell a lot into the story, and that was fine because that made Lashley pissed off, and he came in there with a
right.
vengeance. And when Lashley is like that, there's very few in WWE that could match up to his intensity and to show that, hey, I'm still the alpha male on Raw, and I'm not gonna. And that was a way to do it. I mean, I love Kofi, but he was just there to be fed to Lashley, and he got destroyed. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't as bad as Brock destroying him, but was it was still there. It was still he was still there to be fed to a monster.
And you could tell it's there for the long-term story, which we'll get into a little bit later. Um, you know,
Yes,
but yeah, at least he hit a Trouble in Paradise. At least he hit it. So yeah, that's what you can say about the Brock
he
match.
did.
And he was there to make
He
Bobby
did,
look.
but
Yeah.
he did eat 3 Dominators though. I haven't seen a Dominator in a
Two.
while.
Bobby Lashley looked like
So
$1 million. So I mean, Kofi did his job. Fantastic work. Yeah. So yeah, he got his ass
so
kicked pretty bad.
absolutely. Yeah, but that's the way to do it though. I mean that he was there for a reason. And let's see. I think was it the men's that was next,
Yeah,
or
it was
was it?
men's. It was men's, and then
Oh
it.
no, it was the women's
Oh
match.
shit!
The
It
women's.
was
Okay, so then
championship.
let's talk about Charlotte and Rhea. We were mentioning earlier. This is where we began to see a little bit of the Peacock network issues. The crowd was definitely chatting for Becky. Uh, you know, I didn't think that Charlotte was going to win, but I kind of understand why she did win because basically they're trying to get her to have as many title reigns as her father. I mean, that's the end goal, and she
Right, right,
will get it. It's not just if, but when.
right, right.
Uh, you know, I think this is probably the best match they've had. There was definitely much better than their previous match, than their match at Hell in a Cell. And the Hell in a Cell finisher I thought the finisher for that match was terrible. I don't like when championship matches end in a DQ.
Yeah, so dumb.
Um, it was not a good finisher. At least here, there was a clean finisher. Um, they went out there, they did the best they could. Rhea, Rhea saved a almost potential botch situation where she was trying to lift Charlotte up into a vertical suplex. Luckily, she was able to muster all that power and get her up. Um, that was more on Rhea. Like she was able to do that. Um, I didn't really have any further issues with that match. Apparently, Rhea went it. I mean, where were they? I mean, I know Charlotte's a heel. I get that. And but what was Rhea? Was she a baby face? Was she a heel? Was she a tweener? Like
She's
I
definitely a
didn't
tweener.
quite.
But
Okay,
I thought, that
so
botch, that near botch you mentioned earlier. I thought from that point on, when they saved that botch and made it even more special, because that shit was an extremely big show of strength, and I thought from that point on, that match was fire.
yeah,
That was like the five. I would give it a 4.5, maybe 4.75. Pretty damn close to a 5-star match. That shit was pure heat. I love that match so much.
it was a great match. Like I said, I give both of them credit. Charlotte winning, I mean, I understand, and when we talk a little bit about Raw, then maybe this will give us a reason as to why that is the case.
Right, right. But it was fantastic finish. I even though I didn't like the booking so much of who won, how it got there was pretty damn good. It was a pretty clean match. Good storytelling.
Okay, now we can finally talk about the mem. So let's talk about the mem.
Yeah,
And
canceled.
no, no, this was the best match by far. I mean, I'm gonna give I will give WWE credit. You know, when it came to who was involved in this match, uh, as far as the entrance goes, this is probably one of the best on paper participants that you can have currently for this match, and everyone delivered. I'm glad they had Ricochet in there
Oh,
because
he delivered.
you forget just how valuable Ricochet can be. You put him in a situation like that, let Ricochet do Ricochet things, he can get over. He just needs to be in his own environment where he is allowed to express his creativity, because there's very few in professional wrestling that could do what Ricochet does if given the opportunity to do what he can do.
Yeah, it was insane. He was used perfectly for this match. That spot where he got launched off the ladder, then did the somersault or the flippity flip off the top rope. That was just extreme balance, dude. He's fucking hell of an athlete. Match had some insane spots that were not overdone either. I thought they fit perfectly. Like when Kevin Owens got like slammed onto that ladder and he landed like in the middle of like the upright ladder. I was like, fuck.
Man, he's been in so many ladder matches that you know, these matches will eventually take a toll. I mean, look at the Hardy Boys, dude. Look how um just bad they are. Granted, Kevin Steen hasn't done a whole lot of ladder matches in WWE to the point of the Hardy Boys, but he's done a lot like outside of WWE as well, and
Right.
they're pretty brutal. And he's a big dude, so I'm a little bit concerned about him, but you know, he goes out there and he just gives it his all. And at the end of the day, you gotta appreciate for all these guys for what they've done. I'm glad that Drew didn't win. I was I don't know if you caught this, but during the backstage segment, he was getting a mixed reaction.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't more boos than cheers. It was still a good amount of cheers, but you could tell there were boos. So I'm glad they didn't go that direction. And honestly, like you look at who was on the card and who was going to win, um, it could have been anyone, and you would have justified it. But in the end, the right person won.
Right.
Big E delivered in a huge way.
Yeah.
And like we were alluding to earlier, this could lead to a very good storyline. And you want to continue with the New Day versus Lashley. This is how you do it. You don't have to wait for the draft. Big E has the briefcase. He can cash in on Lashley to get his revenge for his friends. You know, he has that to his advantage. And um, I could see that happening where he could eventually go to Raw and cash in on Lashley, because I don't see I mean, I know we're gonna talk about the main event in a bit, but that to me is the ideal situation. You have him go to Raw and you have him avenge his fallen comrades.
Yeah. And like it, all anyone in that ring could have won because realistically it was a really well placed match. Like who the fuck is gonna win? But by the end of the match, I only thought there could be two winners. It was either gonna be Big E or Riddle because he's been on a roll. He's been tearing shit up. Like he's over like no other right now. And it was such a slow start for him. But between him and Big E, I thought they were the two favorites. And either way, it was a fantastic decision to have Big E go over. You could tell it meant a lot to him, and yeah, now we could go forward and see where who he cashes in on, which is obviously going to be Lashley, but we can get into that later with what happened at Raw today. So yeah,
You know, I'll say this about Riddle. You know, Vince does like Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle's able to find a way to get himself over. So I got to give him credit. I didn't think that was gonna be possible. I didn't think Vince was gonna get Riddle, but you know what? It's working for him. More props to him. Hopefully, you know, this is just hopefully this is not just a temporary thing where he's only going to be pushed to a certain extent and then he goes back to irrelevancy. Hopefully he stays like this for a while, and Vince could see what Matt Riddle can really do in the ring, because Matt Riddle can go, he can wrestle, he can deliver. A lot of the promos that he's given, he's able to over deliver.
Right.
And that's another thing. I think it's probably one of his biggest strengths is that he can over deliver given the circumstances.
Yeah, and he's over like Rover on in a Land Rover. I don't know, but yeah, he's fucking brilliant. I think he's gonna have a future run, and he had a little bit with Cena tonight too, which is kind of cool. So that if you're put in the ring with Cena and that kind of company, Vince obviously loves you. Now
And let's talk about the main event. We kind of did spoil a little bit, even though I'm sure everyone knows by now. It's been more than 24 hours. Roman Reigns versus Edge. This was an old school title match. Like this had the feel of an old school championship match. I actually enjoyed it. It was great to see Edge finally get his one-on-one title match after winning the Royal Rumble. I am not. Let me just say this: I am not a fan of the Royal Rumble winner being put in a triple threat match.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
They've done it. They've done it a few times already. This year, I can understand why they did it, but they didn't have to do it. It was not necessary this year, given that Roman still retained. Hopefully, they don't do this anymore. Or do they use it very rarely, and if it's necessary. But having said that, Edge getting his one-on-one title match, it felt like a pretty big, a very big match feel. And Edge came out, he was so over with the crowd. I just gotta say this: Roman having that final boss entrance and that theme song. At first, it didn't fit him, but the more I hear it and the more I see his entrance coming out, the more I like it. I will say, it took a while, but once I caught on, I gotta say, man, it fits him perfectly.
Yeah, I mean,
And real
yeah,
quickly, real quickly on top of that, Roman is peak Roman right now. He's hit his stride. He's getting better and better. This is probably some of the best character work that WWE has done in a long time. Um, you could put Roman up there as far as like one of the most hated heels in the company. I mean, he's up there. He's got to be up there. I mean, if he's not going to be by the end of his run, he should be up there right currently. But he will definitely be up there by the end of his run as one of the biggest heels in the company.
right. And I think to jump on what you're saying is with the live crowd now, as we can see, he's the best wrestler in the world at the moment by far. Like he's the best performer in the world, without a shadow of a doubt, to quote his cousin. But like he's by far the best wrestler in the world. It's insane how good Roman is right now. This is like if he's in a video game, he's 99. You know what I mean? There's no way.
It
It's
really
insane.
it really is, because people are saying that he can't wrestle, and that's not really fair, because I didn't think that was the case. Now, was Roman as flashy as various other wrestlers? No, he doesn't have to be. But from what he can deliver in the ring, he's pretty solid. I've never once questioned his wrestling ability or his work ethic in the ring. He can deliver. He's actually pretty good, and it fits his character even more in the fact that he's able to deliver more with less. He doesn't have to go out there and do outrageous stuff. He doesn't have to. Now, now the one thing I will say about Roman in the ring is that maybe he could probably take it easy on the chin locks, but I get it because he's a heel.
Right, and
He's
it
supposed
makes
to do that.
sense.
I get it. Yes. But other than that, I have no issue with his in-ring work. I think he's hitting on all strides. I mean, this is peak Roman right here.
Yeah, he's the best wrestler in the world easily, and I'm curious to see where they go from here. And as we found out at the end of the night, with like after that match, I was like, oh, what a great fucking pay-per-view. And then boom, trumpets.
I will Let's before we do that though. The match was good. Edge, for being 47 years old, looked phenomenal. He looked like he was in tremendous shape. He didn't lose a beat. Um, and they played in the part that this is his first one-on-one championship match in over a decade. That was a huge factor. But of course, this is a Roman Reigns match, and we know there's going to be interference involved. With the world title match, and I don't want to just say it's just Roman Reigns. It's really been a theme for the world title matches that's been going on in WWE and in AEW, where there's interference galore. So to have interference in this match was not surprising. The Usos did come out. Now, before the match, we forgot to mention that Seth Rollins was backstage and he was visibly upset after losing Money in the Bank, and that he was going to take his frustrations out on the match. He foreshadowed him getting involved, and one of the rumored matches, which will likely happen, and the fact that they played into it was Seth Rollins versus Edge, and there's a backstory that you can play into that match, believe it or not. Because if you remember back in 2014, when the Authority were they were at their peak, but when John Cena's team won at the Survivor Series to dismantle the Authority, Seth gave Cena an ultimatum to reinstate the Authority, or he was going to break Edge's neck. So you could play into that story part right there from 7+ years ago, and that'd be real interesting to see if they do that. Now, will they do that? I kind of doubt that, but it'd be really nice to throw that Easter egg in there.
Well, I'm like here for it, and I think that's another good consolation match for Mania. And they're gonna tear that house, or excuse me, SummerSlam. They're gonna tear the house down with that. Like, I thought that's perfect use and the perfect way of nobody looking weak. If you're gonna have an interference, at least make it continue to a storyline to build to a bigger storyline. And I think that was the best way to do it. As we
And
as we
it worked.
saw. Yeah, it was perfect. Like I said, I think this is one of the most perfectly booked pay-per-views or wrestling cards in general in such a long time. So beautiful. All WWE waited for was a crowd, baby, and now they're back. I was like, what the fuck?
I mean, for pretty much for really all companies, I mean, the crowd makes a huge difference. That's
Right.
how instrumental having a live audience is. And what we've seen during the pandemic era, I mean, really more so with WWE, is you can't manufacture a reaction. You have to have an authentic reaction to everything. You can't let one person dictate how things should be. That's just not going to work. Now, going forward, my biggest concern is now they have a new tool to use, and that is piping in. Well, they've kind of used this here and there, but now more so during the pandemic era, and that is piping in crowd noises. Are we going to be seeing that a lot more often going forward? I mean, maybe not now. I didn't hear a lot of it last night. I couldn't really tell if it was a live reaction or if it was piped in. But maybe going forward, we might see it happening more often. We may not. I mean, this is just barely 1 week of the fans coming back. So we'll have to see what happens going down the road.
Well, one thing you didn't need to pipe in the noise for was the John Cena reaction. That shit was in fucking insane. I even marked out. I was like, holy crap. Dude, I told you, I don't know if you guys saw my post today, but I bought WWE merch like a motherfucking fuckboy this morning. I bought the whole John Cena kit, the hat, the wristbands, and the new shirt, and I bought a Roman Reigns t-shirt as well.
Yes, we saw. That was
yeah, the 12-year-old boy in me. But the server crashed. Apparently, it was crashing. The servers were crashing, dude, because of how many people were on the WWE website buying shit. I was like, fuck, amazing shit.
Well, I mean, that's good for WWE because having the live crowd back is going to really help their inventory sales. I mean, their merch sales are going to hopefully pick up from where they left off before the pandemic. Because that's been one of the challenges that WWE has had with not having live attendance, is they're relying a lot more on internet sales.
Right.
And now that they have a crowd back, yeah, they're able to get merch sales in the arena, but also they see a reaction like that, they see stuff like that, that's going to incentivize fans to go out there and buy their merch more. So that's a good thing to have for WWE. Hopefully, they can keep it up. But going back to John Cena's return, I will say that is probably one of the biggest return pops in WWE history. I mean,
Wow.
if it's not number one, it's pretty damn close. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect the pop to be that huge, and that just goes to show you that, for all the years that fans shat on Cena, whenever Cena would come back, he would get love. He would get love. Um, the fans do miss him. Just when he's been out for so long, you know, the return it's fondly, and it creates an excitement. And I think it goes to show you that someone like John Cena. I mean, John Cena was probably I will say probably the last big WWE, the last big superstar WWE has made. I mean, Roman Reigns right now is still up in the air, but I think
He'll get there.
after all is said and done, he'll likely get there. But before that, it was John Cena, and you realize how much John Cena meant to the company,
Right.
and how they booked their business around this man, and that's how you create a star. I mean, for better or worse, we could say all we want about Cena and how he could have been used better, how the fans didn't really. I mean, it was polarizing, but at the end of the day, that's who they built their success around. Her they rather built their company around was one person.
Yeah, and it just goes to show when WWE is at its peak at its powers, when they try and when all the ingredients are in there, it's just incredible shit they can do. Like fuck, I haven't marked out like that in a long time over some bullshit. And Juan Cena himself fucking got me to go like a little bitch boy. Which brings me, I know you said you didn't see Raw, but spoiler alerts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A bunch of shit happened. We're kind of running out of time, but quickly, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I got it out. We have a new WWE Women's Champion, and her name is
I heard
Nikki, whatever,
Nikki
uh,
Nikki
Ash.
Ash, she cashed in.
And I'm happy because she deserves
So
it. She deserves it. The
I'm
crowd
I'm I'm
reaction was
fine with
pretty
it. It was
pop.
only a matter of time. I think honestly I didn't think they were going to do it that quickly because from what I remembered, I don't think most of the women that have had the briefcase, they haven't held on for very long. I'm trying to remember who the longest person that held the briefcase
It
and
wasn't
cashed
Mella.
in.
Mella cashed in pretty
Um,
fast, didn't she?
she
Was it the same night? I
well,
forget.
what's funny is that you know what's funny is that um, they did credit her for two victories. The first one with James Ellsworth involved, and then the second one was on SmackDown. Now, if she cashed in on SmackDown, then it probably was either the same night or the week after. But I don't think there's been a women's briefcase. I mean, off the top of my head, I'd have to go back and take a look that has held the briefcase for a long period of time. I mean, it seems like everyone that has had it, they've cashed in almost immediately. Um, but yeah, if you're gonna cash it in and you wanted that live pop, that live reaction, I mean, they picked the right time. I thought they were gonna, play it out for weeks, but there's also another. They also had another MO to get another victory for Charlotte. To bump
Right,
up the win count.
right.
So I
But
think that's probably the most important reason was to get
yeah,
that, to have her regain the belt.
and plus it's a good way to get it off Rhea sort of safely, and then her not having to lose to Nikki Cross. I guess it's better to lose to Charlotte than Nikki. So yeah, the mission
I mean,
accomplished.
yeah, in a way in a way, uh, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all know where this is going to go. I mean, it's basically it's going to set up another Charlotte title win. Now, whether it's going to happen at SummerSlam, that remains to be seen. Um, SummerSlam's going to be real interesting in the next couple of weeks, so we'll see how WWE plays their cards in the next several weeks. Now, keep in mind, a lot can happen. You know, um, the live crowds may be back, but we're still. I mean, I know we hate talking about this, but we're still in the pandemic. I mean, will things change? I mean, will we go back to how we were? I mean, a lot remains to be seen. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now,
I'm
let me ask you a question. Or let me. I don't mean to cut you off, but let me ask you a question. Since you saw Raw, did you see Goldberg come out? Because I heard he did make a he did Did he make a return? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, he did. He made a return, and he's next for Bobby Lashley, which is good because we all hope he fucks up, or he gets fucked up by Bobby Lashley. And that SummerSlam card is looking like, I mean, for the casual, it's looking pretty insane. But I wonder if Big E cashes in there. But who knows? We wanted Brock, we got Goldberg.
Goldberg just had a title match against Drew McIntyre back at the Rumble.
Yeah, and he lost. What a fucking jabron.
And he lost. And he's gonna go back in there and he's gonna get another title match against Bobby Lashley. I mean, if you want the crowd, I mean, the crowd is gonna turn on Goldberg. It's just only a matter of time. And this is not a good way to. I get why WWE wants to have a big name on that show because they're probably trying to get Brock.
Right.
Brock didn't want to come back, and I don't really blame him. So they figured the next best thing was to get Goldberg and to have him put over over Bobby Lashley. I understand why they're doing that. I'm just not a fan. I think you're just gonna have the crowd resent Goldberg even more. It would have been nice. You know what would have been nice if Big E came out and instead of cashing in right away, calls a shot. Be like, you know what? You destroyed Kofi. You destroyed Xavier. You destroyed my boys. I got the briefcase. I don't need to cash. I don't need to run up on you and steal the title from you. I'm a man. What you did to my boys, I'm gonna put you through hell. So I'm gonna call my shot. SummerSlam. It's gonna be on.
I'm curious though. They have that in their back pocket.
I think they could have done that. Like I think that would have been even better. But
I kind of like
understand
that.
Why.
Right. I do like that the fact that I hope if they're listening to me now, but I hope they do book Goldberg losing to Bobby because that just makes it even more special when whoever does take that title from him takes it. So we'll see.
I don't think Goldberg's gonna win.
There's no way.
I don't think so. No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, number one, the crowd will turn the crowd is gonna boo Goldberg. I think they'll probably cheer from the beginning, but once reality kicks in, I don't see that crowd cheering him for much longer. And number two, you've built up Lashley so much to be this dominant champion it was going to be going on 6 months, and to have him lose to a part-timer, I don't like that at all.
Right.
Especially a retired part-timer. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So I really hope they don't do that.
No, I we'll see. Well, if there is a God, I hope that does happen. But I think WWE is in a good place, and I think the fact that they got crowds helping dictate and booking, it's a win-win for everybody. And I think wrestling's back, baby.
We'll see. I mean, this is week 1, so we'll see how it turns out. They obviously wanted to stack Raw to be a huge show. Raw has been suffering. I haven't watched Raw in months. I think the pandemic has not helped. I don't want to say it's the reason why. Hopefully this is a sign of things that this is a turnaround that they're going to need. They desperately need. Raw needs a turnaround. So hopefully this is just the beginning. But we're just going to have to wait and see as the weeks go on.
And I think I think the rumor is that Big E is going to Raw. So we'll see.
It makes sense. It makes sense because, there's a storyline right there. It's right in front of you.
I'm excited. Well, I think that's enough. I think we're about to almost run out of time. Is there any final thoughts you have on the state of wrestling or anything you want to say? Shout outs or whatever?
Just having the crowd back. After watching Dynamite and Money in the Bank, it's great to have a crowd back. Yeah, you're gonna get some stupid ass chants, but that comes with it. Nothing beats a live reaction, especially a just unplanned, just like what the fuck reaction. Nothing beats that. And wrestling during the pandemic, I mean, we call it the pandemic era. I mean, really should call it I guess for lack of a better term, we'll call it the pandemic era, did suffer. Uh, Business was just not the same, and understandably, because you just did not. That just goes to show you that no matter how much you try to change your business model, um, at the end of the day, you need fans. You need a live attendance to watch and to have them react to what you're putting out there, because your fans are going to be they're going to be your biggest critics and your biggest supporters. So without that, who do you really have? You don't really have anyone. So
Right.
I really hope that, this is, we're beginning to return to some form of normalcy, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, like I said, we're still not out of the woods just yet. I mean, hopefully, I mean, hopefully this build up SummerSlam, and and also to throw it out there for Double or Nothing. I'm sorry, not for Double or Nothing, but for All Out. I think it's going to be helpful for both companies, for both AEW and WWE. If things go back to how they were, I think both companies will be very successful, and we might see, kind of how things were before the pandemic. But we just got to take it. We just got to take it one day at a time.
Awesome. I think that's pretty much it. Shout out to Drew and Bobby. I know Drew got a promotion recently at work, and I think he's jerking off right now. So either way, it's all good, baby. Yeah, so that's it. I'm glad to be back. We'll tune in next week if we get a chance to jump on. I know wrestling's starting to get hot again, and hopefully Becky Lynch comes back. And can't wait for my John Cena merch. And I may buy my SummerSlam tickets, because I think I want to go to Vegas. And my Uncle Manny, Tito Manny's gonna fight, so it might be a good weekend to be in there. So we'll see. That's it. That's a wrap. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe. Get vaccinated or don't, whatever you want to do. Later, guys. Love you. Bye.
All right, later.